Welcome back to the garden. This is the second part of our conversation in the garden, and today we're going to be talking about how gardening has helped our mental health over the years and how it's made us feel better about ourselves, how it's relieved stress, and how in general it's improved our physical and mental health. So I'm going to start by asking Andrew, which parts of gardening do you find most therapeutic?
I like in the garden to be firstly just outside, so being amongst nature, being amongst the plants. I mean, certainly this time of year with the flowers, the colours, and as you know, I like vibrant colours.
Yes. I have to tone you down a little bit with the vibrant colours.
He does tone me down a little bit.
They're only allowed in certain areas of the garden.
Yeah.
Because I find
I'm too over the top. I'm one of those people, I'm like there in your face kind of thing, and it's a bit much sometimes.
I like things to be more harmonious, whereas Andrew does like to be...
You do. You like pinks, blues.
Riots.
You like your blues. You're softer, you're more pastel shades. I tend to be more vibrant, so I like blues, reds, oranges, anything that's, a real shot of colour. But what I find most beneficial is just to be amongst plants and in the peace and quiet, preferably, and just to be outside. I like deadheading. I like watering. I find on a dry day, watering quite therapeutic, because you give in to the plants the moisture.
Can you imagine them drinking it like you've parched and you're waiting for them to...
It's almost like I'm needing the drink.
Relief.
I've not had a drink for a long time. And then I'm drinking for the first time after not drinking for hours on a hot day or something like that. And also I like to do, obviously not in direct sunlight when it's really, really hot, a very hot day. To be honest with you, I've never had a problem with scorching and foliage, and I tend to water the leaves, not just the base of the plant. I will give the roots obviously a thorough watering firstly, as you know. And secondly, what I do is I tend to focus on the foliage as well, and as I'm doing that, I'm sort of like giving thanks to the plants in many ways and saying, thank you.
There is an ongoing divide between whether, if you water the foliage, whether the plants can take up that water through the foliage or not.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's conclusively scientifically proven one way or the other, but I would imagine if I was a plant and I was feeling very hot and dry, I think I would prefer to be watered all over. It's like for us going into a swimming pool.
Same here as well.
So that sways my mind to thinking, well, maybe water the whole thing. I know in days when we are short of water, and water is a very, very scarce resource, you've got to be more...
We need to be more mindful at the minute, because obviously, especially in the southern part of the country, there are so many, there are hosepipe bans at the moment because of the water shortage. So obviously, at this time of year, whilst I find it therapeutic to water at this time of year, you're watering with a watering can and trying to conserve water and trying to do, what you can. So obviously, the tomato plants that are in pots, they need to be watered because they will die. But there are other elements and other parts of the garden, like the borders around us now, that wouldn't need to be watered. Everything's well and truly settled. And it's not too much of an issue, really, to leave them, because obviously we're trying to conserve water. So
a lot of the plants we've chosen are on the edge of preferring to be in the drier kind of situation, so like the Achilleas, the salvias. We've got a lot of those type of plants.
That's true.
And they can survive once they've been established in the ground. They can survive without water for a long period of time. So you don't have to worry about plants that are in the ground themselves. The roots will go down and they will try and find the moisture where they can. It's mainly the plants in the pots that need the water.
That's true.
So apart from watering,
seagulls enjoy themselves.
What else do you like to do in the garden that's therapeutic? I mean, I know you like
the deadheading. I like to just
a lot and relax.
It's mainly I do that, but I tend to wander as well. I tend to wander around. Because I do sit out and relax, but I'm a contradiction, because then I'll start walking around and doing stuff.
You'll see something. And
I see something. I just want to look over. I see the colour of a plant, the colour of a flower, and think I want to get over there and look at it. And
so I like to observe the garden.
What about you? What do you think? We're talking about me, but we need to find out what you.
What I find therapeutic is the different arrays of varying shades of greens
Green's your favourite colour.
I like to observe the
Green's his
garden.
favourite
I like to sit out and relax in the garden. But again, I also find that I'm pottering around as well. I'll look around and find something that needs doing, so I'll get up and do that.
I don't think you relax as much as you should do. I think you're worse than me. I tend to relax a lot more in the garden.
Very fidgety, aren't I?
Very fidgety. You always want to be doing something, have a focus on something. But going back to the mental health issue, it's easy, especially nowadays. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you talked about depression, and the world was a very different place. Certainly in the workplace, as we can remember, it's very.
It was one of those words that no one ever admitted to.
No one admitted to it in the workplace whatsoever. Whereas now it's become quite a common thing through the fast pace of life.
Yes.
Life is very different to what it was even 20, 25 years ago.
And thank goodness it's not got the stigma anymore that it used to have. And people are more open about talking about mental health issues.
That's true.
And particularly for us, we've had mental health issues for many, many years. And we've always found that particularly being in the garden and nurturing plants has really helped. Yeah. And sometimes, like we lived in Manchester and we didn't have a garden, we just had a balcony. And we clothed that balcony as best we could.
We'll show you some pictures of that.
We had a nice table and chairs. We had some plants all around in containers, and even those small few quantity of plants, they gave us something to look at when we was inside. When it was warm, we could open the patio doors and go outside to the balcony and interact with them. It gave us something to care for. It also gives you an understanding of the seasons, and you kind of feel in tune with how the seasons are going. It's like you see the spring bulbs in spring, then you go on to early summer, and the early summer plants come out. Then you go into mid and late, then you see the vibrancy of the late summer perennials, some of which are behind us. And then obviously you go into the autumn, where you have a lot of that colour turning into browns and greys, and structure with the seed heads, and you have a lot of different kind of things to focus on in a garden. And it's that being in tune with the seasons and getting the seeds out that you're going to sow at the right times of year. It kind of, for me, it takes any kind of worries that I have, or any kind of concerns, or any thoughts I might have that are not particularly positive, and it changes it, because it then becomes more positive because I'm not thinking about that anymore.
I think you need it far more than even I do. I think you need it a lot more. You need gardening far more than I do. I love gardening. I always have done since I was a child, and so was Paul. But you. And
I found when we did it as a career, when we used to work together and do it as a career.
We did garden design for a number of years.
We were at our most probably peaceful.
We were.
And
despite of anything else that was going on in life around us, externally, we had a lot of
peace of mind. And obviously through the action of doing it as a job, we were immersed in that environment for such a long time.
Well, it was an adventure that we did together. We did it together. We worked together, lived together, did everything, and it was just fantastic. We just enjoyed that serenity, that peace, going to working in different spaces and doing different things, doing different gardens for people, designing them, and
for the past number of years, through changing jobs, changing places of living, we are now moving back into the workplace. And for me particularly, the very stressful, busy environment of where I work, which is in a NHS laboratory, I think if I was doing that full time, I think my mental health would really suffer. So the fact that I can have days when I can be in the garden, I can be in touch with nature, I can be looking at the plants, I can be sowing seeds, propagating, it just gives me that downtime. I think everyone needs downtime.
Without that, I think you would really struggle with life. I think you really would, because it's
I have in the past.
You have in the past many times, and something, to see people, to see Paul and I, in the street, and very smiley, happy people, but people, nobody knows what's going on behind closed doors. Nobody knows what people are feeling like, and that's the thing with life. Sometimes certain life events and things that have happened in the past, and some people have a predisposition to depression and anxiety and things like that. Certainly depression's a horrible, hideous thing, and I think it's one of those things that never really goes away. Is it? It's something that you learn to live with in the moment as best you can. And
you learn strategies of of coping. And you find things that do deviate from how you're feeling, which is through gardening for us. It's our main passion. When I was growing up, there was nothing else I wanted to do apart from work with plants. And through a series of choices that kind of moved away from that. Then we came back to it in later life. Then another set of circumstances came where we turned our back on that again. What
we wanted to do was just share some of our journey with you to help our viewers to understand that we are just normal people. We know what it's like to live in this fast-paced world that we're living in now, this crazy world. And it can be it's a wonderful place to be in. It's a wonderful time to be alive, but also it has its stresses and strains. Life's very different. It's not that slow-paced thing that it once was, if ever it was. It was just different. And I think that what's important is that we just wanted people to be aware that it's okay to have depression. It's okay to suffer from mental illness, and that gardening. The most important thing is that gardening can really help make a huge difference.
Yes.
Do you remember because I've had other health issues as well in the last few years, and I know that whenever I attended a GP appointment, I remember in Manchester they had a prescribe a plant thing going on,
which is a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice idea. Obviously, I never needed it. Being a gardener, since childhood, I've never needed that because I've done it automatically anyway throughout my life. But it was interesting that they should do that. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, because sometimes people may feel a bit overwhelmed. They maybe want to get into gardening, but they don't know where to start, and maybe it's all a bit overwhelming for them to go into their own garden and try and tackle things bit by bit. So what my suggestion would be is that you do maybe focus on just one plant to begin with. Just start with one plant. It can be a house plant, it can be an air plant, it could be a garden perennial, a garden shrub.
Something that means something to you. It can be whatever it means to you.
Yeah, maybe your favourite plant that you know from childhood, or a favourite kind of colour or something like that. And just look after that plant. And just care for it, water it, feed it, notice it through the seasons.
Learn more about it online, so that you're growing it, so that you're watering it at the correct times. You're not overfeeding it, overwatering and things. And
in doing that activity, you're taking yourself to another place. You're giving responsibility to something else, and sometimes that is what really matters. Because sometimes you feel like you maybe can't care for yourself, and if you can just show a bit of love to a plant, that might be able to just give you the momentum to start.
I think it comes back to you. I think through that love, through plants, through loving that action, what you give out comes back, and I think it does.
And plant people are very, very knowledgeable. They're very friendly, and they're very easy to talk to.
Very friendly group, aren't they? Yeah.
Us gardeners.
Yeah.
We like to share things. Yeah. I mean, we grow things. We can pass things to neighbours, pass things to family. It's one of those things that once you do develop into what we call a gardener, and you have your own little patch, whether it's indoors or out, you do find that your passion for plants goes a little bit further, and you want to then encourage other people to get in on the game, to kind of feel.
It's addictive. Gardening is addictive. But in terms of addiction, it's a positive addiction. It's a good thing to be addicted to. To be addicted to plants and enjoy being outside in a garden, or house plants if that's something that means a lot to you. It doesn't matter. It's just a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing to be involved with. And so relaxing on the mind, good for the spirit, and just keeps you in a good place, or in a better place than what you were before you started it. I think that's the key.
And also it gets you outdoors. It does get you mobile. I mean, there's people that perhaps haven't got the same mobility as some people, and some people might need to have adjustments made to the garden so they are able to go out. So things like raised beds for people that maybe have difficulty in bending. But there's a wide range of adaptations you can make to any space, to any kind of environment, to make it so that you can do, even if it's just a little bit, and if you're just responsible for a pot of perennials or a pot of annuals, it's just something, just to add the richness of your life.
I remember watching there's an episode of Gardener's World with you, and I know that there was a lady on, and I think she had rheumatoid arthritis. I think she was in quite a bad way with it. She was very poorly.
She was partially blind.
Partially blind. She had I think, don't quote me on this, I think it was rheumatoid arthritis, and she was in such a bad situation, obviously experiencing a lot of pain, yet she loved to be out there in the garden, and seeing her out there, tending to a garden and working with plants and growing plants, and I'm thinking, that is quite an inspiration.
Yes.
Because I've experienced my own ill health and widespread pain and stuff like that, but not to the degree that obviously she is experiencing, and it just makes you not only thankful for your own life, but also to see that no matter what situation you were in, you can do something. There is something you can do. You know, to see that lady, that was inspiring for me. That
can be done.
Yeah,
it can be done. And she was very unique, because obviously she had difficulty with her eyes, so she was sensing through her hands, through her smell. So it was very, very
as
touching.
well as not being able to use her hands in the same way that we would because of the rheumatoid arthritis. So
it was touching to see that.
Yeah, it was quite definitely touching and inspirational. Definitely
to anybody.
Yeah. To say you can do something to some degree, and it will benefit. Because that's the thing as well with physical ill health. Going off topic, but physical ill health really isn't that much off topic, because I can certainly vouch for this. Physical ill health and poor mental health, as in depression, goes hand in hand. Because you can't suffer from illness for long periods without experiencing depression as well. Nobody can, no matter what they claim. Nobody can, and you know they go hand in hand. And I think that's where gardening comes in. Allows you that opportunity to just you're focusing on something else. You're focusing not on what you're experiencing. You're aware of what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, so whether that be emotions or physical symptoms, whatever it is. But you're also taking your mind to a different place, and that's wonderful.
And it's not
priceless.
It's not at the cost of, you know, if you have very serious depression, very serious mental health issues. We're not saying gardening is going to solve all your problems. It's not.
And there are times when you need to get help. There are times when you're feeling that bad, and you really need help.
Gardening is not a replacement.
It's not a replacement for medical care, and there's the time to talk to somebody. And if you feel you're in that situation, the best thing to do is make an appointment with your GP, or go and speak to someone. There's so many helplines out there. There's Samaritans and different other lines that you can call. Mind.
And they're all out there specifically to help in these situations.
Because it's a fast-paced world we live in. But
and there are so many demands. There's so much expectation. There is
not just on ourselves, some other people.
So much pressure. And at some point, you've just got to release the valve and release the pressure and release the stress. And we do that by getting out in our garden.
Out in the garden.
Forgetting about all our troubles, all our thoughts, and just focusing on the plants. And making sure that we have the best experience in the garden as we can. And we've been blessed this year because we've had really nice weather.
We've had a fantastic summer. I know we've had a few rainy days, but it's mainly been sunny most of the time, let's face it, or at least dry. And, I know we're going into drought conditions. That's not good. That's not positive. But at least we've had some good gardening weather. We've got to see the positives in this. And we've had some good gardening weather and plenty of chance to be outside. We've had summers before when it's just been raining every day. And that's not good. I mean, certainly for people like us, that's not great, because you're just thinking, will this ever end? I'm sometimes envious of people that live in a better climate or better part of the country where the weather is, not as much rain.
They can work outdoors with the garden all year round. I mean, we're not fortunate in this country to be like that.
No, certainly not far away from Manchester as we are as well. In the middle of Manchester and Liverpool, and it's like, it's going to rain.
Cold, rainy,
closer to Manchester, it's going to rain, isn't it?
Yes.
Remember when we lived there, it seemed like it was raining all the time.
I think Manchester has a very high rainfall.
It does.
But so we hope you've enjoyed this video, and we hope it's give you some ideas and maybe some direction with regards to how it's helped us and maybe how it can help yourself. Drop us any comments in the comments box.
Please do.
And give us a thumbs up, and obviously please subscribe if you can. So we'll see you again soon for another video.
We will.
So thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
Take care.
And we will speak to you soon and see you soon. Thank you.